If your mind is the enemy, where do you run? And if you dislike a popular hyped up book, is it okay to admit it? Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we will be doing a book review and oh my god, I'm going to review Dreams of the Dying by Nicolas Lietzau. This book was part of one of my previous book haul. I had told you that I will definitely read this because it was so hyped up by many booktubers, and man, I have mixed feelings. So, without further ado, let's get into the review. Hey there guys, my name is Angela, your own Bookaholic Brownie. If this is your first time here, welcome. In this channel, we talk all things books. You will get to see book reviews, book hauls, book tags, TBR, reading vlogs, reading sprints, and many other amazing bookish paraphernalia. So if you are a sucker for these bookish contents, please do not hesitate from subscribing to my channel. I will be coming up with many more interesting contents. And also, if you love this video, please like and share. And without wasting more of your time, let me get into the book review. I will be reviewing Dreams of the Dying by Nicolas Lietzau today. Dreams of the Dying is the first book by Nicolas Lietzau. He wrote this book based on an online game, Enderal, and this book I think is first in a series of many to come. It's a self-published book. That's the background of the book. Now, coming to the plot, we follow the perspective of this guy called Jesper Dalvaric. He is a kind of a war veteran and is suffering from PTSD and depression and melancholia, and is severely a suffering soul. He has this situation where he slips into dreams which are so real life like, and he is haunted by his own version of demons in his dreams. He is kind of a drifter. He is moving from one place to another, and not being rooted is what is keeping him alive and kicking, and helping him to survive. And during one of such journeys, he receives a letter asking him to go to this archipelago called Kile, and there is a job offer for him, and he decides to go there. And once he reaches there, he understands that the ruler of this kingdom is in a kind of a coma. It looks like it has been induced by maybe his enemies, because he was perfectly okay until very recently, until he started showing aggression and shift in his characters, and then he slips into coma. So it looks like there is some kind of conspiracy behind his coma, and Jesper is supposed to help them understand or catch the culprit. And this needs to be a clandestine affair, because the enemies are everywhere, and if the ruler of an archipelago is in a very near death coma like situation, there is opportunity for a coup. Civil war might happen. So this is kept secret, and there are only very few people who know of this situation. On the way, he gets a couple of associates. Basically, what he's expected to do is, with the help of a dream walker, a person who is able to get into another person's dream, to get into Emperor's dream and understand who is the person responsible for this current situation. If you think about it, it's very Inception-like a story, where you can get into somebody else's dream and try to manipulate him, or try to understand him, or look into the past, or do your investigation. Now, considering this is the plot line, or this is the storyline, it is very interesting. And when I started reading it, it felt so intriguing. I was really pulled into the story, and it had so much potential, guys. Really, even when I was like 200 pages in, I was just engrossed in the story. But unfortunately, as and when I started turning the pages, the story became less and less engaging. And the reason for this are many, and one of the main reason is the writing itself. Now, the writing was not that up to the mark. The book is 700 pages, Yeah, I think that this could have been easily condensed to maybe 450 to 500 pages. 700 pages was kind of a stretch, so it could have been made tight and taut. That's my opinion. And also the language itself, there were so many times where there were some adjectives that were used that did not go along with the verb or the noun that was being used, and there were some serious grammatical mistakes, editing mistakes in fact, and the actual the piecing together of the different stories and the chapters, I felt that there was some disconnect in the flow of the storytelling. So I think that this book needed a better editor. I'm sorry, I do not like giving bad reviews to books because I love books and I want every book that I read to be good. But I'm just pointing out what I noted. It could have been a much better book if it had a better editor. And I think partly it's because Nicholas is not a native English speaker and he wrote this in English, so he wanted somebody, maybe a native speaker or a basically a professional to edit this. Why I'm not saying native speaker is because this is the kind of a discussion I had with some of my friends recently. Now some of my friends or acquaintances, you could call them, I have never met them but I know them only via online interactions. They are actually Wikipedia editors, mostly English contents, and also some of them are scholars, and they always feel this discrimination that even though they have such a good grasp of the English language, they are experts in the language even though they are not native speakers, and sometimes the contents that they write are being reviewed by native English speakers, not because they are much better in English but because of the fact that they are native English speakers. And that is being kind of a controversy in the Wikipedia content creation world. I don't know if you know about this. So there has been concerns raised about this, and when you see some of the native English speakers, they themselves are not that good when it comes to editing and or writing itself when compared to people who are professionally trained their entire life in the language of English, and they are scholars, and they are contributing to the Wikipedia page so much. So they feel discriminated and they feel that it is not just that they are being judged just because they are non-native speakers. That's why I'm not using that term, but what I would say is that this book needed an editor who is proficient in the English language. Now, magic system. Magic system in the beginning felt quite simple, but as and when it progressed, there was so much of the magic system that is being explained via the character, but it almost felt like it was a very convenient scene built purposefully by the author to explain the magic system to us. He could have as well added a footnote instead. You know, it felt like footnotes basically sometimes when the magic system is explained to you. I did not feel that the author had put in effort to organically lay out the magic system in front of us so that we can figure out and understand it, as and when the story progresses as part of the plot line. It felt that it was the author took an easy route and just put some paragraphs from the mouth of whoever is speaking at that point in time, and it was very convenient, I felt. It was kind of an info dump, but I wouldn't call it info dump as such, but it was part of conversations or dialogues, but it felt like an info dump. And one thing Nicholas did was overusing this trope of magical convenience, wherein using magic to come to get out of a situation, which was earlier told to us in the story that was not possible because of so and so reason. So there was a disconnect there. So the magic system was not cohesive and at the same time not that easy to understand. Another thing I remembered here is that some of the words that were used, I felt that it did not suit with the storyline. They were modern day terminologies that were used in a very middle age kind of a setup. Like for example, if you use bow and arrow and scimitar, and then all of a sudden you start referring to machine guns. How would that feel? I had that feeling sometimes with the language that's been used in this. So there were so many words like that which were completely out of context, which did not match the period and the age that was it is this story is set up in. Those things really turned me off, but still I pushed on because the premise of the story was so interesting. I wanted to know how it ended. But oh my god, it was so tiring because there were so many dream sequences. And hey, I want to give you trigger warnings for body horror, suicide, uh, depression, mental health in general. So there is so many trigger warnings. Be aware of that. Dream sequences which were repeated over and over again, and like I said, there was nothing new that's being added. I felt that I was reading the same pages again and again, and I wanted the story to progress, but it wasn't. The relationships that was built between the characters were not convincing enough. I sometimes did not know why certain characters were angry or upset with Jesper, and why Jesper was angry with some other characters. So I think the characters should have been explored more, and their arc should have been deeper. This is my opinion. But all that said, I really appreciate Nicholas for addressing these very serious issues like mental health issues, suicide tendencies, etc. in his story. And that is one part I really loved, because in these dream sequences, albeit there were so many dream sequences with body horror that were being repeated over and over again, I really enjoyed them, in the sense that until it started being repetitive, I really enjoyed them. They were very well crafted. I really felt the horror from the body horror. They were really, I mean, graphic and horrifying. All these body horror images were actually a real manifestation of Jesper's inner demons. So that was picturized and conceptualized and also written down very well. But they were quite repetitive, so that kind of turned me off, like I said. Also, there were nice references to exploitation via feudalism and alluring to capitalism at some point, so that was good as well. Also, there was attempt at diverse love story, and there is a love story that is brewing between Jesper and another character in the story. I don't want to spoil it for you. There is this references to mob justice, and he demonstrates that mob justice is no justice at all, and I agree to as well. Mob justice is no justice at all. It's actually kind of violent atrocity and calling to the primal violent nature of human as such, and it has nothing to do with giving justice to the victims. That was well addressed in this book. There were some situations where there were this warlike situation happening and nothing happens to these main characters, which was kind of unbelievable, and they escape from there unattacked even though they are faced with their enemies. And it's almost felt comical that they are being let scot-free by their enemies. So I was like, why, how come that happened? Why were they not attacked or killed? So yeah, that was kind of comical. Maybe I missed a point, I don't know. If you guys have read this book, please let me know. It was in page 441. I had made a note of it. Getting into kind of a spoiler part now, but not much of a spoiler, but still I promised you that I will show you one sentence at least where the language was off. So this is from page 414 in my copy, and it goes like this. He screamed and struggled and begged for mercy, but that only seemed to spur them on. He was young, no older than Kavu. Kavu, you need Kavu. He turned back the crowd. It should have been he turned back towards the crowd. And the same page, ice exploded inside his head. His sight went blue, white, black. He collapsed. The psychic dimension, but something was different. So there was a disconnect between the two scenes here. Basically, it took some time for me to connect the both parts. So yeah, there were some disconnect like this here and there, and at the end Jesper comes out of his depression, and it does not shown how exactly he managed to do that. Was he given any kind of medicine or treatment or what? It was not made clear. There were so many terms that were introduced in the book or concepts which were not mentioned earlier. So we are at loss now what to think about those terminologies or those concepts. Maybe because this is part of a series, it could be explained in the future books. It did not give me enough confidence that these concepts are well founded. There were things that I felt that the author, as and when he went along, he invented and just plugged into the story and then thought of later expanding on them. Which is okay if he is doing that, and if it is his writing style, and if he is going to give us more explanation in the future books, that's fine. But as it stands right now, it felt unconvincing. So these were my spoiler reviews. As such, I did not make much notes after 50% because I felt too bored to even take notes. Sorry about that. But yeah, that was a spoiler part. This book had so much potential. I was just hoping it to get better, but it did not, and I'm sorry for that. But I hope Nicholas gets some good feedback from genuine reviewers and genuine arc readers, and give him these feedback so he can improve his second book, because I think that he has a great sense of imagination, he has great creativity, and he has the potential to write many great books. But he needs to have better editors, he needs to have people who give him better feedback and reviews so that he can implement the changes and come out with a better book next time. That was my very brief review of Dreams of Dying. If you ask me to rate it out of 5, I would give it 2.5, because it was not a complete disappointment, and there were so many instances where I really enjoyed it, and there were instances where I was horrified, where I was supposed to be horrified, and at some point I did tear up as well when I read through Jesper's issues with mental health. So yes, there were touching moments, there were great moments in this book. It was not a complete disappointment, but at the same time there is so much potential for improvement for this book and the author. I would really love to read the second book as well, to see if he has improved on his first book. I am ready to cut him some slack, because this is his first book, it is self-published. Maybe he didn't have the budget for a better editor, or he didn't have better arc readers, and also he is a non-native speaker, so I am willing to close my eyes to certain negatives and give it a 2.5, which is an average rating. And I am also willing to read his second book and give this author another try, because the story was really engaging in the beginning. It had the potential to become something great, but it felt to something like an average beverage. That was my review of Dreams of the Dying by Nicolas Lietzau. I hope you liked it. Let me know what you thought about the book if you have read it. If not, do read it. It's not a complete waste of time. But yeah, at your own risk, go ahead and read it. You might enjoy it. Like I said, there were some Inception-like moments, so that was great. Those were some good part of the book. And if you want to see more reviews from my side, please do subscribe to my channel. This is Angela signing off. See you next time. Bye bye.